Hello and welcome to Fintech Finance, the virtual arena, where we discuss what's going on in the world of fintech today. And joining me right now is Jeremy Suarez from a very exciting new neobank, Muniy. Hi, Jeremy.
Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you.
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Very good, very good. The sun's shining, so very excited.
And where are you coming from today? Is it London?
Actually, I'm in Austria at the moment.
In Austria?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I wasn't expecting that. And
Yeah.
how are you finding the lockdown?
It's been interesting. So I just kind of arrived in Austria last week. That explains the haircuts. Yeah, I was pretty shaggy before this. Yeah, but again, I think one of the questions that we always get, especially around the lockdown in business, is how is it affecting our business? We've actually kind of turned it on its head, and we've been able to focus a lot on getting things done. You know, when you have nowhere to go, you have time to kind of, get things sorted out. So yeah, for us, it's been a good thing.
I think you're the only people in the world who've been getting loads of stuff done. So
Right.
Congratulations. And also, I ran off before to get this. I hope this works. It's really old. Congratulations. You hit your target of 200K.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah. So obviously my first question has to be, have you stopped celebrating yet? Do you have a massive hangover? Tell me.
Unfortunately, yeah, the work never ends. So we're already looking towards the next raise, to be honest.
No, really?
Yeah. Again, Crowdcube actually has been really great for us because we've been in a bit of a stealth mode for a while, and this is kind of our coming out party. So people like Fintech Finance have kind of discovered us along the way, and other VCs have kind of started asking us questions too. So yeah, it's been a really great thing from obviously from the Crowdcube perspective, and obviously raising that money, but obviously looking forward and seeing the next steps.
Oh, so I'm going to ask you a bit more about that in a minute. But first, we love a really good story here at Fintech Finance. Well, especially me, to be honest. And you have a really good story because it started in the Middle East. It's very exotic, where you were with another company that you co-founded.
Yeah.
And then you spotted a gap in the market. Can you take us there and explain what happened?
Yeah, so I was asked to go to the Middle East to help with the Bahraini government moving to the cloud.
That's very important.
Yeah, very important. So Amazon built a data center there. Microsoft has recently built a data center in Dubai, actually Abu Dhabi. And in that space, you're working primarily with banks and governments. So just kind of by chance, we had to kind of figure out how to get our finances in order to actually, get paid and so forth as a business, and then working with banks on the back of that, moving them to the cloud. There's a very close relationship between the financial industry and the government in the Middle East. So we started to see a couple of cracks there as far as being able to create accounts, and then the overall population that was trying to interact with the banks. Unless you were somebody that was born in the Middle East, it was very hard to get financial inclusion, right? So there's a huge expat community in places like Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Oman, and I personally had to know the CEO of a bank to get a bank account, which
you name dropping.
Yeah, exactly. That's the first part of the story. Yeah. So I was always a fan of the neobanks that were popping up in the UK. I was, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I was probably on the hundreds of users that were kind of starting using these sort of services. Just because, like I said, there was something buzzing going on with the first neobanks, specifically in the UK, and you can imagine who I'm speaking about. And we saw a lot of really great things coming out of the UK that weren't happening in the Middle East. So I figured, why don't I, try to crack this one here, specifically because I had the relationships in the region. and we spun up a prototype to build a neobank in the Middle East relatively quickly, actually. And the reasoning behind that is because the Central Bank of Bahrain was actually really open to this sort of thing in the past 2 years. But at the same time, they were bringing in open banking, inviting new ideas in, and like I said, the financial inclusion thing was a big movement in the Middle East. So that was how Money started. Was kind of seeing that gap, and then taking a bit of inspiration, and then kind of like merging those things together.
Very nice. So you just decided, okay, I'll just start a bank then.
That's kind of how it went. I mean, I as an entrepreneur, I really feel like you have to try to solve the hard problems. I mean, I don't have much time in the day, but if I spend the time I have, I want to spend on the hard problems. So this seemed like a big enough problem to solve.
Yeah, fair enough. So I did notice that I had to write them all down.
No worries.
There are already some digital and challenger banks in the Middle East.
Yeah.
So some of them like Ela Bank, Pepper, Meme, Halala, clearly CBD now. What makes Money different?
Yeah, so those banks are, I would say, are more of a reskin of the traditional banks that are out there. And again, they've obviously progressed over time, but they're not really looking at the demographics that we're trying to address. Like I said, for example, if you're an Emirati that already has a bank and is trying to look for a hipper bank, go with Meme, right? But Meme isn't going to open up their doors to somebody who has a minimum balance, right? So, or an expat that is trying to gain an account, right? So again, things might have changed over time, and they will change. But we're more open to those types of people and demographics, right? So the huge difference for us is we're really looking after the unbanked, right? The people that are going to these regions, and they don't have an address. They don't have the ability to actually, have a large enough balance, because most of the time they get paid in cash and they send their money over to their home countries, and so there's an incentive for traditional banks to actually give these people a card, for example, or a bank account, and that's the fundamental difference.
So it's really for the expats, the new people who are coming in, who have got a job but they don't have anywhere to pop their money.
I think to kind of like encapsulate all that, for the unbanked people who don't have the ability to get bank accounts, right? And there's a huge population of those people, right? I think it's about 80% of the people in the Middle East are expats, and so there's a huge population that they can't. I'm not saying they can get bank accounts, but the bar is a bit higher than you would like.
And I also found something quite unique about Money is that you really work with the merchants, right? That's another differentiator that other banks are not really doing.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and that's something that we're really excited about, to be honest. And we've gotten a bit of attention about that one USP. And the interesting thing about that is, I always say that we're not really looking to compete with the neobanks in Europe. We're looking to take inspiration from the WeChats and the Alipays and the Paytms, the people that are actually already doing things like QR payments very successfully in Asia, and they make it very frictionless to actually take payments, right? And that's actually been one of the things that we've been getting a lot of really good feedback around, especially around the Crowdcube, is that's a true frictionless payment, right? So you don't take in a card and actually tap in anything. There is no contact, right? You actually take your phone and you actually point it out a QR code, and you can make the payment that way. So it kind of plays into the whole COVID distancing type of scenario. But
that word, frictionless.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So when I was doing my research, then I was watching some videos and I found something, and literally my jaw just went, and I had to come out. I told my boyfriend, I told my mum, I told everyone, please tell me more, because I can't find out much more about this. And I hope I've got it right now. So if I've got money and I'm walking towards a shop and that shop has something that I might like to buy, is it true it can send me a tailored discount on the thing that I might want to buy through Muniy?
Yeah, so yeah, it's true. It's not, we haven't released it as yet. We're still testing it. But the idea is that we are working with merchants and retailers that and we know where they are, right? And I think it's it's the whole thing around, you know, using that data for good, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say you're in London and you say, okay, well, let's go for coffee. And you know, you're walking around looking for your favorite coffee place, and then you're close enough to a merchant, and it lets you know that, well, we'll give you a 2-for-1 coffee, or we'll give you, you know, a cash back on the back of a coffee purchase, right? We allow merchants to offer those things to users, right? So it's kind of like this, again, overused term, but we're using AI to actually identify these trends, and then kind of give those benefits back to the users that way. And you don't have to actually go through and say, okay, who do I have a card with, or who do I have some sort of, you know, benefits package with? The Muniy app just does it for you, right?
So is that only going to be for the big chains?
Oh no, that's for everyone actually. Yeah. So I mean, again, this is one of the things that we're really keen on. Is we're really, again, one of our mantras is, and this is how we got back into the merchant side, is, you know, people are really important to us and we want to help people. But merchants take a huge hit every time you buy that latte or that espresso, you know, on the back of the interchange with Visa and MasterCard and the like. So we were trying to really help the merchant get some of that cost back, and, you know, and still drive business for them on the back of that. So yeah, anybody who has a Muniy account as a merchant has access to that information.
And who can get a Muniy account? I know that you have plans to open it in the Middle East, but right now it is in Europe?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, right now it's actually available in the EU. So so anybody who's in the EU can actually access it.
And when are these discounts going to be available?
We're actually testing some things now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, again, I think this is the way that the market is going, to be honest, right? I mean, I think the past few years, neobanks have proved that they can make shiny new applications, and they work, and, you know, and you can get a nice card and things, you know, and get those discounts on the back of that. But where we're trying to do is create a bit of a marketplace and give you a more of an added value back, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say you're a user that likes to get involved in a specific area of culinary, or maybe you go to certain types of gyms, you know, it's kind of like playing back to that, right? So we're trying to play, like, you know, where do we kind of like use that scale and figure out what's important to the user. We don't want to give you a fire hose of information at the beginning. We just want to give you those tricklings of information first.
Is this what your round of funding, your successful round of funding, is that what it's going towards? Please say yes.
Yeah, most of it is, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, we're really, right now, again, for the first 18 months, we really went out and we tried to make sure that we built something that that people can kind of identify, right? Mm-hmm. You know, and there was a lot of iterations that how the Muniy app kind of came to fruition. But now we want to really look out and try to work with partners and merchants to give, again, value back to the users, right? And then let the merchants take advantage of that at the same time. So yeah, you're absolutely right. We're looking at working with merchants, working with you know, people who are interested in bridging those gaps.
So your focus is like people rather than consumers or businesses or other people. It's just really people and what works best for whether you have a little shop or whether you just like iced latte.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, I think that's really interesting when you say that, because there's people behind those businesses. We're finding that out a lot now, right? These mom and pop shops, these restaurants where there's a chef that this was his dream, and they have small margins, right, to kind of keep their businesses going. So and we know that every single time somebody actually purchases something from them, obviously they get the benefits of the what they offer, but at the same time, the business has to kind of take a bit of an impact there too, right? So we're trying to make sure is that we identify that there is a person behind that business that can benefit from this. At the same time, the person using money will benefit because there's a bit of a handshake there. So again, it's the circle of life, if you will.
So we spoke a lot about these discounts you can get, because I think that's incredible. But can you tell me more about the other features? Because I'm sure you're not just a discount machine. I'm sure you have a wonderful banking interface as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, I guess, like I said, I think that's why I really appreciate that you're focusing on the discount aspect of it, because again, that's why it's different, right? But it sits on top of a foundation also, right? So being able to take direct deposits, being able to manage your funds through the application is something that we've been fine-tuning over and over again. To do foreign exchange, it's something that we allow you to do from euros to pounds to euros.
That's very cool.
Yes.
That's very cool.
Yeah. So I mean, all the stuff that you would expect from, again, the other neobanks out there, when it comes to like the fundamental banking piece, we offer that now, right? So foreign exchange, multi-currency wallets, we offer you a card. Those are the things that we call as fundamental. And then all the new stuff when it comes to like analyzing your data and making sure that we can give you added benefits. Those are the things we're calling the new features.
Right, and what does the card look like? I was putting you on the spot a little bit there. You can describe it if you want.
Yeah, I can show you actually.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks for that. Right now it looks like this. So this is still an early version of what the card will look like. We are still playing around with the design, and I think when it comes to the branding for neobanks, that's super important, right? So I think we take a bit of a different slant. Again, I'm from the US myself, and you nailed it on the head. There is a bit of a hipster element there, so so we're just trying to bring the coolness back into the branding aspect of it, but at the same time have a really solid fundamental base around the functionality and how it works. So you can have both.
That's cool. And a cheeky question: what are your fees like compared to your competitors?
That's a good question, actually. So I think what every neobank right now is trying to do is get people to use their application. The problem is you're working in an environment that was built hundreds of years ago. And traditional banks have a war chest, right? So they're allowed, they have a lot of money to spend. So we have negotiated a pretty good deal for fees. But at the same time, again, trying to give those added benefits to users and businesses, we're going into a subscription model so that people can actually take advantage of added value, right? So initially, if you just sign up for an account as a business and as a user, it's free, right? If you want to do anything outside of that, let's say you want an extra card, you want to get a virtual card and a physical card, multiple ledgers. If you want to do anything special outside of the norm, then we charge you on the back of those things.
And speaking of special outside the norm, what are the future plans for Muniy? Do you have anything on the horizon? Anything that you'd like to reveal here on this show?
Yeah, sure. I mean, again, we're very technical. You know, I've been a developer for about 22 years myself, so so I have a bit of.
You don't look old enough. That's
Trust
such a cheesy thing to say, but it's true. You don't look old enough.
No, I've been around the block a couple of times. And I think the thing is, you know, so we know how things work underneath the hood, you know, and so, you know, in the world of APIs, you know, you're allowed to do a lot of really great stuff really quickly. So things like offering loans is something that we're hoping to do relatively soon. Where we just launched, we're just going to launch a way for small businesses to apply for pensions. So that's another thing that we're allowing users and merchants to do.
That's different. That's really cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, for example, if you're a freelancer, you don't have a pension scheme, you essentially take a button and apply for a pension, and you get £25 back to your initial setup. So that's a really good added benefit.
With a special invested personal pension, is it like that?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So that's another thing. We're doing a lot of interesting stuff around cross-border payments. And again, we have some really nice relationships with foreign exchange companies now. So we might be offering some stock options. So you can actually buy and sell stock through the platform. So again, there's a lot of stuff buzzing around. We've been working on this for a very long time. So this doesn't happen overnight. But you know, obviously you want to roll things out as you feel comfortable with them and the users understand what you're about. So
these are very big plans. So like, it's not just, maybe it won't just be a bank just for like savings and current accounts.
Yeah.
It could be a place where you get credit, where you can invest, and where you could even get a pension, all within one app, and your discounts on your latte.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? I mean, you know, fintech is a word that's been thrown around for a very long time, but I think the problem is, in my opinion, is there's so many great companies out there doing a lot of great things, but you know, they kind of work in silos a lot. And my approach to business, to be honest, in general, is your partners are what make how you can scale the easiest, right? So, you know, we're not reinventing the wheel by any means. You know, we're not going to go off and try to build a foreign exchange company. We're working with businesses to help us do that, right? We're not going off to help do things in other areas when people do it better than us. We just want to kind of like be the glue and the proxy that helps these things come together.
So I can see how, because in the UK at the moment, the FCA is really pushing open banking. So I can see how that might be possible within a couple of years in the UK.
Yeah.
What would that be like in the Middle East? Is that something that could happen just as quickly?
Yeah, in the Middle East is actually really interesting because open banking is being looked at very hard. So I don't know if you know, but the UK is a bit of a shining star in the finance arena. So people do look at the UK as, you know, if they can do it, they do it first, and then, you know, we follow, right? So yeah, and there's a lot of like trading of ideas that goes back and forth. And like I said, 2.5 years ago, Bahrain was really trying to get open banking going, and they've done it, right? And the central bank is very keen on kind of opening that up. But they're trying to get influence from Australia, Singapore, you know, Hong Kong, all these other areas that kind of have been doing it already, but the same trying to make sure they don't stumble along the way. So I think the Middle East is going to be the easiest arena for us, because obviously they're really keen on financial institutions already, and at the same time they're open to open banking and what it brings as far as financial inclusion. So yeah.
And something like 98% of the population have a smartphone or access to a smartphone, I read. Whereas in other underbanked places like in Brazil, there's only about I think it's 40% of people who don't have smartphones, something like that. So I guess that when I was doing my research, I thought, God, this guy's got a really good idea, because it's everything's in place except for this missing piece at the top, which could be money.
Right.
I hope it's money.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, I think this is one of those things where these are new ideas. These are just we're just trying to execute them as quickly as possible, right? And making them available to people that want to exercise these things. Again, these are problems that I've had. I'm sure you've had. When you go on holiday, how do I get my money from here to there? How does it? If I don't, you said I don't have a pension. How do I do this? Right? Mm-hmm. In your mind, you're like, well, now I have a bank account and now I have a pension provider. How have you married those things up? They're asking for the same information. And actually, that's actually the most interesting bit. When you do your KYC, when you do your know your customer onboarding, and you do your AML, your anti-money laundering, that information is done over and over and over and over on each one of these things. If you get a mortgage, if you get a loan, if you open a bank account.
Yeah.
What we're starting to realize across the board with all these fintech companies is we're all kind of doing the same thing. So can we use that information and kind of streamline things a bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, we're not even doing the same thing. We're using the same companies, right? Because there's some really good ones out there that that you trust, and you're using the same APIs, the same user flows, and you keep building them over and over and over again. So if we can kind of sync up and sync that information up, we can streamline things relatively quickly.
Do you have your eye on any partnerships? Is there anyone you're going to be boozing and schmoozing?
Always boozing and schmoozing, to be honest. I mean, again, I think the CrowdCube thing has been a very, very good thing for us. I think you mentioned in our last conversation what it was hard kind of finding information about money because we really haven't put ourselves out there. And the reason why is because we want to make sure that we have answers for the questions that were being asked. At the same time, we want to make sure that we have something that users can that benefit from. But now that we're out there, other businesses are coming and saying, "Hey, we really like what you're doing. Can we have a chat?" Right. So the past 3 weeks have been very busy for us as far as just saying hi to people and welcome to the family type of conversations. And then at the same time, seeing if there's any synergies that we can take advantage of going forward. Yeah. Very
exciting. So I have to ask you as a final question. So Snoop Dogg is the shareholder in Klarna. will.i.am is the advisor for Atom Bank. Which musical maestro would you have for money?
Right. Oh, I love that question.
Shout out to Ali, our editor. He thought of it.
Oh, right. Okay. So if you go to our website, you notice that there's a lot of reference to hip hop in our website. We have something that says more money, less problems and stuff like that.
Oh, but I didn't notice. I'm so sad. I just read it and I feel like such a grandma. I just read it and I was like, that's catchy.
And I think the reason why is because me and my founder are from the golden era of hip hop, so we're really keen on that space. But I think and one of the things that we were trying to use on our explaining video was the song "Cream" from Wu-Tang Clan. Do you know them? Do you know Wu-Tang Clan?
Oh my God, it rings a bell. I'm going to look really silly because I think it's something everybody in the world knows, and as soon as this is done, I'll be like, oh, I know that, but actually I'm so sorry to offend anyone. But
oh, no problem. So
you can sing it. Do you want to have a little sing and remind me?
Well, in Wu-Tang Clan, they have a song called "Cream," which means cash rules everything around me, right? So I'll send you a link and you can play it. And I'm sure you'll get hooked on the group. But they're a group out of the from the 90s, and they're a collective to a certain degree. So there's about 10 of them in a group, which is not very common for any type sort of group. But
Yeah.
the interesting thing about them is they all have their own special skills, right? One has a really interesting style, and one way, one has an interesting style in the other way. And I think that kind of plays into what we do, right? We're not just trying to, appease the user on a personal level, but the merchants are actually there for us too. We're there for the merchants too. So we're trying to play, we're trying to keep it equal for everyone, but at the same time give the benefits to everyone. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Jeremy. I really want a latte now. I actually if only I had your card, and then it could give me a little discount.
Yeah, exactly.
So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you very much everyone who's watching this week's episode of Fintech Finance, and we look forward to seeing you again later. Bye from us.
Bye, thanks so much.